I would say like don't be afraid, but also you don't have to tell everyone everything. It's your personal business. And so I've kept my privacy private as much as I want to, and you have every right to do that. Sometimes I think people think with actors and creatives, like you're in the public eye a lot, there's social media. You share what you want to share.
Hi, and welcome to the Creative Solutions Podcast. I'm your host, Isolde Trachtenberg. On the show, you'll hear interviews with innovative creative artists, entrepreneurs, business executives, and thought leaders. You'll have a front row seat as they explore their internal, uncharted waters about what inspires them to grow, achieve, and innovate. Get their insights and realizations as I tease out answers to questions they've never pondered before. You'll also learn how to supercharge your innovative drive, mindfulness, and communication skills so you can succeed. This episode is brought to you by my favorite productivity hack, the Brain FM app, this podcast's host, Podbean, as well as my book, Speak From Within, Engage, Inspire, and Motivate Any Audience. Hello, and welcome to the Creative Solutions Podcast. I'm your host, Isolde Trachtenberg. Super thankful that you've taken the time to be here and to listen, and super excited and pumped to have this week's guest on the show. It's my friend Miranda. She is, if you've read Die by the Sword and you've seen the cover of my mystery series, the Cassie Belmont mystery series, she is the cover model. She is also an actor, a writer. She's the host of the podcast that's called the Balancing Actor Podcast, where she navigates a creative life with a civilian one and everything in between. She can be seen on many national commercials and has credits from The Blacklist, FBI, Law and Order SVU to Hallmark and Lifetime. Her latest film is The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry, and that's a book-to-film adaptation written by Gabrielle Zevin. Miranda resides in both the New York City area and Tampa, Florida, with her husband, her brand new baby boy, and their cat, Margo. How fab is Miranda? Miranda, welcome. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me back, Isolde. Always a pleasure to be talking to you.
Oh, you're just fabulous. I'm not going to gush. I want to gush, but I'm not going to gush. Since no, because otherwise it'll just be an hour of me going, "You're fabulous, you're wonderful,"
But like, I'll be like, you're fabulous. And then it'll just be going back and forth. And I'm like, but you're amazing.
no,
Yes.
no, you're amazing. Oh my God, are you amazing? All right, so let us move on from the compliment portion of our show. Talk to me. I am so excited to have you on the show. You have made some tremendous changes since the last time that you were on the show. So much has happened. And if you want to listen to the first episode, you're listening to this one, go listen to Miranda's first appearance on the show. You can search on it. But now we're going to talk about what's happened since then. Miranda, talk to me. Tell me how you've navigated the last couple of years of life, especially motherhood.
Great question, Isolde. It feels like it's been 84 years. I feel like I've lived 84 different lives since the last time I talked to you. It's been kind of nuts. I think the last time I talked to you, we had just bought some property in Tampa. We were, post COVID or in the depths of COVID, somewhere around there, right?
2022.
Okay, so not too long ago. All right, so
Mm-hmm.
at post COVID, but still recovering, and I got pregnant the year of 2022. So that says
Uh-huh.
a lot because ever since then, it's been quite a roller coaster for my creative career, for my personal life, and it's just been nothing but going upwards. It's just quite a adjustment. And I guess that's really why I wanted to hone in on it. Like, great question about navigating motherhood, because for a lot of creatives, I think a lot of us kind of shy away from the idea of starting a family.
Mm-hmm.
For financial reasons, for responsibility reasons, right? Because it really does change your life. But my husband and I always had this view that having children was going to add something to our life, not necessarily take things away. And
Mm-hmm.
that's been our philosophy throughout this entire process, is that having a baby and having kids is they are meant to incorporate themselves into our lives, not necessarily change our lives completely for them. Because to be honest, me and my husband live a pretty fun life. So I don't know what baby would want to come on this ride with two like theater parents and like
Right.
epic nerds. It's entertainment all day, every day. So it's but it has been an adjustment as far as my career like changing a bit, slowing down a little bit, but I was ready for it. And I have to say, I think COVID kind of prepared me for that a little bit, like
Mm.
prepared me for the fact that like it's okay to slow down and like life will still go on. So, there's so much we can dive into about motherhood. So I'll just leave it at that and we can get more specific.
Well, it's interesting. You talked about the fact that your career trajectory modified
Hmm.
as you decided to be a mom, and yet I'm looking at looking back on your bio and looking back at all your credits. It hasn't slowed down that much, right?
No, it
But
hasn't.
right, so is talk me through the routine that you and your husband go through to maintain things while you're also both maintaining your careers, especially a creative career. A creative career can suck you dry. It can take
Hmm.
every bit of who you are. And yet now with being a mom, you're split. And I don't know what the ratios are, but you're splitting yourself to be able to navigate the marriage, navigate motherhood, navigate the career. You've expanded your creative career instead of truncating it. So I would love to know a little bit about how you focus, how you choose what to focus on, and what your strategies and tactics are to focus on all of the different things that you're doing.
Oh my goodness. So I have so much like good information. So listen in, everybody. So I'll
Take good
start with,
notes.
yeah, take notes. So I think a lot of female actors are a little nervous about like what, getting pregnant and then like when the right time is to tell your representation that you're pregnant because eventually you're going to start showing, right? And I have thoughts about that. I shared on my own podcast. A lot of my podcast lately has been geared towards like this whole experience. And um I would say like don't be afraid, but also you don't have to tell everyone everything. It's your personal business. And so I've kept my privacy private as much as I want to, and you have every right to do that. Sometimes I think
Mm,
people think with actors and creatives, like you're in the public eye a lot, there's social media. You share what you want to share. I'm not super like overabundant. I don't really consider myself an influencer, although I do think if I dedicated time to it, I'd be very good at it. But like
no doubt.
I don't have the bandwidth for it at the moment. And that was a big thing was it was just reevaluating my priorities. So I waited as long as I could to actually announce that I was pregnant so that I could take advantage of as many acting opportunities as possible. There did come a time, aka in the middle of a film, where I started to show and
Mm,
like kind of had a feeling it was a 3 week shoot date. So like somewhere in the 3 weeks, I was like, yeah, I don't know if I can hide this anymore, which is a little concerning. You
mm.
tell wardrobe, that's like your first person that you tell, by the way, and they're confiding, and you can tell them not to share that information because it can be very private, but I think it's important for wardrobe to know and like hair and makeup to know. One, because from a safety aspect, it's good for somebody to know that you're pregnant on set in case of an emergency, right?
Mhm, mhm,
Somebody you can feel comfortable going to someone. The second thing is that wardrobe's going to dress you in what flatters you. So I said, give me real, the wrap dresses and stuff that's going to flatter. If I like grow a little bit, I mean, you're not growing drastically, but I could definitely tell that I was like, okay, next project, I have to say something now. So,
right.
and your agents, I would say, argue this. They probably want to know sooner than later, but the second you say you're pregnant, everyone thinks that you're 9 months pregnant. So
Mm,
I would just might as well wait until you're actually showing for it to actually matter. Um, that's my biggest piece of advice. And then I knew things were slowing down, and ironically, I got kind of lucky. Well, a lot of people told me I was lucky. I didn't plan this, but we had a lot of strikes last year.
mm,
So it slowed down and it threw everybody's creative path off a bit. Between the writer's strike and then SAG, I mean, we were on strike for 6 months. So the stuff definitely slowed down. And I had my son in August, and everyone's like, wow, what a great time to have a baby during a strike. I was like, yeah, didn't plan it that way, but it did work out well. I have to say, I didn't feel the pressure so much.
right.
But I really looked at like, my pregnancy as like this exciting thing. I was lucky and I felt great. I know not everyone has that experience, but I was trying to audition for a lot of pregnant roles. There's not a whole lot of them. And sometimes they'll pick a non-pregnant person and make them look pregnant with, prosthetics and stuff, which is very annoying. But I get it with like any high risk or, worrisome thing with a health condition, like they want to be on the safe side. So I get that.
Mm.
We actually, my husband and I were able to be sponsored. Like we did a whole Sandals baby moon shoot and they flew us out and we got like the VIP treatment and we're going to be on some of their um promotional things on the website, so check that out at some point.
Oh,
And
that's
it was like
awesome.
it was a really cool experience. So, and that was, a special time for me and him. And I always recommend a baby moon, by the way, or any vacation. Zolda and I were just talking about how we both need vacations right now. Her vacation looks different than my vacation.
Yes.
You probably want to go somewhere warm and tropical, and I just want to like, retreat to my bathroom and be left in silence.
Yes. I no, I understand time in the bath. Like a bubble bath is a beautiful thing, but I
Oh
want to
my
go to
God.
the Galapagos. That's, that,
Right?
so
Oh,
that it's different.
I've always wanted to go to the Galapagos, by the way. That was like on my list at one point when I did go to Ecuador. We didn't make it out there though. So
Think it's
yeah, and
closer
I
than it
still,
is.
what did you say?
I said, you think the Galapagos Islands are closer than they are? Rich and I are actually going to Ecuador this summer for a
Mm,
friend's birthday. He's having a destination birthday party, and he's like, come and we'll treat you to fun stuff in Ecuador. And I'm like, great. I want to
heck
go to the
yeah.
Galapagos. And he's like, that's going to take an extra 5 days, which I don't have. So
Oh, 5 days.
yeah, to spend any kind of time there, it's essentially 5 days to be able to go, spend time, and come back. So next
Okay.
time we'll get the
Next
lay of
time.
the land. Yeah, and I'll get to practice my Spanish a bit more, so that's good. Anyway, keep
Yeah.
on going.
No, I love that.
Relaxing.
I love that. That's really cool. Um, I was on a missions trip, just side note. I was on a mission trip and we were trying to go, but we couldn't go because there was pirates
Oh
at the
my God.
time. And they said the Galapagos is canceled. So we had to stay more on the
Oh my
mainland.
God.
And I was like, well, I don't want a pirate
Yeah.
ruining my trip, but here we are. Um, that's a story for another day. Anywho, so I mean, like I traveled so much while I was pregnant. I probably did way more than people would have liked, and I had to like ask permission many times from my like healthcare provider if I could still like fly. And you're not supposed to fly after like 35 weeks, but I think I was like 35 weeks on the dot was my last flight.
Wow.
Um, so I'm definitely more of a risk taker. And once baby came, I mean, I knew that I wanted to give myself time. I wanted to give myself like a good solid 4 months to just kind of chill
Mm-hmm.
and get used to this new baby, this new life. They call it the fourth trimester because it's actually very different than all the other times, because baby still is very dependent on you. You're really, you're healing, which is huge. And you're just learning, your sleep is not the same and it'll never be the same, unfortunately, but
Mm.
you're just in survival mode is what I would call those like first 4 months. And you start to see the light a little bit at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the 4 months, which is why I'm really like it's just wild to me that this country doesn't offer more and better, maternity leave and paternity leave. Some companies really are killing the game, which is great, but then others just like there's absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And acting is one of them, like I don't have maternity leave. I don't have anything paying my bills while I
Right.
decided to have this child. And that's another thing too, is like, insurance and how expensive is it to actually have a kid. And I did have the actor's insurance on top of our TRICARE, which is the army insurance. And we had two insurances, which was wonderful. Also another good time to have kids when you have insurance. So
Right.
it's just like a lot of things. It's like strategy. You should put a plan in place for things to be more financially easy and to take the burden off of you. And my husband and I feel very lucky. And the fact that I have to say that I feel like this is a privilege in this country is a little sad to me, but we had
Right.
the discussion before we decided to have kids that I would really like to focus on being a mom and don't want to feel the pressure to have to go back to work full time. But my personality is a hard worker and I always have something going on, so I was like, I don't know, maybe I would want to go back to work. I have no idea. I just want the option.
Right.
And, not everyone has that luxury to be able to do that. So I recognize that through and through, but that was a pretty serious conversation with my husband and we're both on board with that. We feel that, at least for the first year of his life, I want to try to be around as much as I possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband also works from home, so there's that benefit. Um, but I say that I wanted to chill for 4 months, but that didn't happen. I actually I ended up booking something like 2 months out, I think. Maybe it was actually 3 months
Wow.
into it. It was very little, and the gig wasn't, it was only like 2 hours away, and
Hmm.
everything was paid for, which was wonderful. So my husband, me, the baby, and my mother-in-law went out, and I was able to do the gig for the day. And it kind of put things in perspective, because I was one, exhausted because it was a long day. It was like 10 hours, and then we went into overtime too. But it was the first time I was away from him for that long, He wasn't that far away, but like that's a whole mom guilt sort of scenario. And I don't know if I felt guilty, because I felt like he was in good hands, but that was my first experience of needing to advocate for myself, that I had to pump on set.
Mm.
And luckily, I had an amazing producer, female producers. Female producers were super welcoming and awesome. The male producers are almost even more awesome, surprisingly, because they don't want to say the wrong thing
Right.
or like do the wrong thing. They almost like have no idea what to do, but they're like overdoing it. Like, are you okay? Is everything good? But you get really nice special treatment, or you should get nice special treatment on set while you still have to pump or nurse or whatever it is. Which is like kind of gets me feeling that maybe I just say that I'm breast pumping all the time so that I can get like better green rooms and in 15-minute breaks every, 2 to 3 hours. I mean, it's pretty great.
It's a nice work if you can get it, right?
Yeah, and really with that, because I was nervous about telling, like, how am I going to tell this? I don't want to be a burden on set. I feel like that's a lot of like actors' fears too, is you want to just kind of be known to being easy and workable. But you still need to advocate for yourself, because if you don't go to the back and pump, you could have a very leaky situation and ruin your costume, and wardrobe's gonna be very mad at you. So
Right.
it's just, you really do need to advocate for yourself. And I found that the best way to do that is usually the producer reaches out to you the night before. I usually send them an email, and it's quick and sweet. Hey, I'm so excited to be a part of this project. Just an FYI, I'm a breastfeeding mom, so I do typically need to pump every couple hours during the day. The past shoots, I've worked this in really seamlessly, and that's my goal for this shoot. So I figured I'd let you know ahead of time so that we can work out what we need to do with the schedule. And I'm more than happy to go into detail with you. And let's make this as easy as possible, is usually what I say. And then they usually ask me like what I'm going to need. And I say, I just need a private room. I have equipment where I don't necessarily need an outlet, which is really great. So you can kind of really do what you need to do anywhere. But really the private room is the essential thing. And I don't care if I'm in a closet, as long as I have like a little chair, maybe a little countertop of some sort. That's all I really need. And someone to not walk in on me.
Right.
It's great.
Privacy is a good
Yeah,
thing.
privacy. And yeah, it's really easy. And I just try to say, like, okay, when do you need me on set? And I try to work it out timing wise, although it's not always easy. What's going to be the less disruptive, if you will. And it's great. It's been wonderful. And I have to say, like, I'm just really proud of myself for advocating myself in that way, when a lot of people may be like shy or nervous to do that. And don't be confident when it comes to it, because at the end of the day, it's your child and it's you and it's your body. So that's been a really interesting adjustment, but it's been great. It's been really well received. I found that becoming a mom, you get indicted into this really cool club, and you have something to really relate to other people about and talk to them about and get perspective on. And I felt very welcomed by this community, and want to do my due diligence by giving back and being, a helping hand to those that are thinking about kids or are new to the game or whatever it is. Like, I just always want to share and be helpful, like you, Isolda. I feel like
Aw.
you're the same way. Like, you're so wonderful with all of your insight, and you've always been so giving. And I really, really admire that. Like, you make me want to be a better person and give and provide knowledge, and from just the goodness of your heart. And I think that's really important, just to be more inclusive. And as Gen Z says, I'm not Gen Z, but they say just be a girl's girl,
Well,
which
first
I
of
love.
all, I love that. And thank you. That's very sweet of you to say. I'm trying not to cry, and I will not cry, and I will be all better, and I will breathe through that. That was very wonderful to hear. Thank you. Miranda, it's so lovely that you've had such a welcoming experience, that there are other people who are in this industry who open their arms and open their hearts to you as you were going through what is one of the biggest transitions a woman can go through, right? That
Mhm.
so I guess the thing that I'm wondering now is, and I don't even know how to say this in a way that makes sense.
Okay.
Let me see if I can figure out how to say this. You mentioned you were lucky, you gave birth in August, and that's in part because there were all these strikes going on, and looking out, extrapolating out, the strikes going on, both strikes going on means that there's a kind of a lack of new material out there now because people weren't working on new things for a long time.
Mhm.
And so as you're looking now and moving into the future, how do you envision your creative career, your acting career, but also other ways in which you're creative? How do you envision it blooming now that there are contracts in place, now that the strikes are over, now that in many ways the industry is sort of starting to wake back up? And I do want to say though, I feel like Henry Cavill and Olivia Colman are everywhere, right?
Mhm.
They're in every movie that's coming out and has been out, and so I'm wondering when they must have been shot like 2 years ago or during COVID or something. But there's something about this time. It felt like it was everything sort of, it was almost like a little, to you be an astronomy nerd for a second, it almost
Mhm.
went into a little white dwarf and then it's going to explode into a supernova. It had to constrict itself. Nothing was going on while people who are in SAG-AFTRA and people who are in writing in the industry were striking for their rights. So talk to me a little bit about where you envision things now that the strikes are over. Where do you envision your creative pursuits going as an actor and other creative ideas that you have?
Great question. Okay, I'm going to answer it in two parts. I find that really interesting that you mentioned Henry Cavill, who's a British actor, right? So he's not a U.S. citizen, as far as I know. I don't know. Maybe he is. Maybe he isn't. I don't think he is. What's interesting is that SAG-AFTRA was on strike. But if you're in another country and you're from another country and a famous actor in another country, typically you're probably not part of SAG-AFTRA because it's a US based union.
Interesting.
So a lot of those actors and a lot of projects went abroad actually to get shot
Hmm.
because they could during that
Hmm.
time. That was a workaround. So that's a fun little fact there. It's a kind of upsetting because you're like, well, what the heck, man?
Right.
All of us were on pause, but like, things were still absolutely happening during that strike. If anything, people were desperate for any work that came up, but a lot of those actors that weren't in SAG because they're not from this country were able to work.
Hmm.
So that is just a little fun fact there. So that could be part of it. Also, he's wildly good looking. So that's also another thing.
Oh,
That dang
it's
chin.
ridiculous.
Oh
He
my
is
God.
ridiculous.
It's
I know.
not fair. It's not fair. So there's that. And then
Nice.
where my career is going. So what I learned during this downtime, I mean, it really is the time I think of the indie film actor and the indie film project.
Hmm.
And so a lot of like interim agreements were happening in the midst of this strike, and a lot of indie films were coming to light because they were green lighting. As long as you were complying with what SAG wanted, they would let you shoot. So they really promoted that a lot, actually.
Yeah.
And it got me and a girlfriend of mine, Heather Cole, who's also a former actor. We met in New York on a commercial set. Hilarious human being. You'd love her.
I
Um,
can't wait to meet her.
right. And she also moved down to the similar area to Florida. So we have a lot in common from a lot of different areas. We decided to write a full feature film during all last year. It took about a year or so
Wow.
to complete it. We just copyrighted it, I think last month or the month before. I remember, I think the month before, if I remember correctly. And I'm really proud of that. It's my first feature film to write. It's a comedy called Shit Crazy. It's about a bachelorette party that is based in Tampa Bay. And if you've ever been, it's a fun little party town. with beaches, and it's just got a cool, like, interesting history and nightlife. And so it's a very crass comedy. I mean, we don't hold back with our
Nice.
comedy there, but it's a primarily female cast, diverse cast is what I envision it to be. And just like a lot of homage to the Tampa Bay area, which I think would garnish a lot of excitement of the community.
Hmm.
There's a lot of cool stuff happening in Tampa, a lot of cool indie stuff, commercials. Like the film scene is very cool and close knit, and people are getting stuff done, which I love. And that's a big reason why we just decided to put pen to paper or fingers to computer, however you want
Hmm.
to look at it. And we were able to work on it together. And I just felt like creatively I was excited during this time where it was very slow. It was slow for me because I was pregnant also, but like because of the strikes too, I felt like I was moving forward, and now I have something to talk about and something to, give legs to. So I'm excited to share more about that with you at some point once our script gets legs. We submitted it to National Lampoon's Girls Rule, so we're waiting to hear back on that.
Nice.
Some producers they have it in their inbox and hoping that they read it, and get to it. And so I'm excited to see where that goes. So because I find that writing came very naturally in that particular genre. Like I really love comedies and rom-coms are two areas that I'm really like exploring because there's some money.
Hmm.
And just that's where my head goes. It's always on the, like, what's the comedic relief. So that I would love to see that going somewhere.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, and I think for me too with the motherhood, like I'm actually surprised with how creative I already am in the day to day. I was laughing with you before this, saying that, my son thinks I'm the most like hilarious person on earth, and it does wonders for my ego. And I have sold out shows every night. I mean, it's just great. And I make up songs and I sing and we play instruments and we go on walks. And I used to not like the zoo at all. And I know you have feelings towards that, Isolda, but like I'm like, oh, I get to see it through his eyes for the first time. Like he
Mhm.
gets to see a monkey for the first time who's carrying her little monkey baby. Like it's really cute and kind of amazing. He loves our kitty cat, and like just he squawks at her every time she comes into the room. Like I think he's just like telling her how excited he is to see her. And it's
Nice.
just kind of amazing to see this little human's personality like develop. And then I get to do art projects. I get to, I puppet shows. Oh man, killing it with the puppet shows.
Command performance
And it's
puppet shows. I love it.
it's so fun. It's just, and then my husband is just as goofy and silly, and he joins in on it and like matches the energy, and then it's full on musical performance. And it's a lot of fun, and it's a lot of fun to see that in our relationship develop. To watch him develop as a father is amazing. Definitely has its challenges on your relationship because it's a completely different dynamic. And I really learned what it means and what it takes to be a team, and it's not always pretty.
Mm,
So, but it's like I feel that we come out such a stronger unit because of it. And it also gives me so much respect for the single mothers that are out there. I literally, if you don't have any other family to help you, I do not know how they do it. And my hat goes off to them. And it's a very humbling experience as well. So I feel fulfilled creatively. I feel fulfilled because at the end of the day, if I don't book a job, I still have, this cool life and my son to come home to. Like it's fine. It's not a big deal. I don't hold roles precious as much anymore. And I also don't give out my time as much anymore. I'm very um guarded with, my free time now because I have to be. I like literally don't have the time to do a lot of things. And although my heart wants to take on a lot of other external projects, like I have to really consider if that's going to be the best for me and my mental health, my capabilities, and then also my family. So it's actually good because I hold space for the stuff that's really important, and then the stuff that isn't important, it's, I don't worry about it so much anymore.
I love that you said that. It's interesting because I work with a business coach in my business. All my businesses are creative, but in one of the businesses, he specifically asked me to write out essentially uh, a unique selling proposition, but really it's sort of what's my dream? What's my dream for my career? And then he said, and once you have that, you have to understand that anything that does not serve that sentence, you have to say no to. And
Mm-hmm.
I went, "Oh my God, I don't know how I could do, I don't think I can do that." And he said, "Okay, and you're going to have to." And as you're saying these words, Miranda, I am literally right now today finishing up that sentence, and I'm struggling with it because I do have so many interests, and I
Mm-hmm.
want to delve a little bit deeper with you. How is it the necessity because you don't have so much free time that's allowing you to say no? Or is there a practice that you have? Because for me, I want to do everything all at once, right? And so what is it that lets you go? Are you journaling? Are you meditating on it? What is it that lets you decide this I say yes to, that I say no to?
I think initially I come from it because I have to from a logical place. Like, logically, do I have enough time for this? Is this going to impact my family? Like, how is it going to impact my family? And there was a motto I instilled in myself with, earlier on, even before having a family, about taking an acting job or not taking an acting job, or a creative opportunity, if you will. And I had three staple things that I needed to have in order to say yes to it. And that was, is this project financially going to make sense for me?
Mm,
Number one. Number two, creatively and career growing wise, is it going to be beneficial to my career? Like, will this credit help me? Will this creative project move me or move my career in a direction I want to see go forward? And then the third is it going to be fun? Do I actually want to do this? And I have to have two out of the three, any combination, in order to say yes to it.
I love it.
Um, yeah. And then if you say yes to it, I guess now I have to take it a little bit step further and be like, okay, how is it going to impact my family? Can I work this in somehow, some way?
Hmm.
Um, like for example, there's an acting class. I'm pursuing an agent in Atlanta. Hey, Atlanta, if you know anyone, I'm trying to pursue an agent in Atlanta. One that's, a well-known agency. There's a couple really big ones that are well respected that get their actors working and get them in the door with those TV film auditions. And I'm at a level in my career where I'm very confident that I just got to find the right fit,
Hmm.
because I like to stay. I like longevity. I like being loyal. I don't like hopping around. It's stressful to me. I like building relationships. So for me, it's a very important decision. And I've been wanting to go and see this one agent for a long time. And he's everywhere, but not everywhere at the same time. Like, it's hard to get in to see him. He does workshops and classes and things like that. And I just randomly saw that he was having a class last weekend on Sunday from 2 to 5. And the class is in Atlanta. And currently I am in Florida at the moment. And it's a 6-hour drive. Not impossible, but doable. But single Miranda would have been like, oh, heck yes, I'm going to make this class. I saw this class on Friday night and the class is on Sunday. Now with a family, that's a big adjustment.
Sure.
Luckily, it's on the weekend, so it's easier because my husband's not working. But I went back and forth, back and forth. My husband's like, look, if you want to go, we'll make it work. If you don't, we also had friends in town too. So there's a couple of factors. I was like, I just don't know when I'm going to get the chance to see this guy again. Like, I could wait it out, but ideally my goal was to have a new agent by May.
Hmm.
And so it's time's a ticking. And I really was like, this is a chance for me to get in front of him. And it shows something in the acting world that you can be a local hire. So if I'm actually showing up in Atlanta, I get his trust that I can be there,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
Because I would be traveling in and known as like a regional hire, if you will. And I mean, it was a pay to pay class, but it would have moved my career in the right direction. If he could have said, no, we're not interested, no, thank you, but I would have been fine with that because at least I tried. But I just could not logistically make it work. And I was like, it's going to be okay. And I was a little disappointed, but I said, I'll find another way. Well, the stars aligned, and the same company was like, hey, we're actually having his partner come the following week. If you're trying to pursue this agency, the second person in command is going to be there the next week. So I'm like, well, I can make that work. I got a whole week to figure this out.
Right.
So it kind of goes to show where you have to just really weigh and see what makes sense and not. But I'll tell you right now, single Miranda would have been like, love you guys. Bye. Like, I gotta go. Like, I'm heading to Atlanta. I'm gonna stay a night and I'll be back, the
Right.
next day. Now it's more coordinating, but I luckily have a spouse who's wicked supportive, and
And
you know
supported both.
and supported. Yeah, for sure, for sure. And he's just wonderful, and I so appreciate the fact that he knows it's important to me. He knows that getting good representation ultimately means leading to more auditions, which leads to more jobs, which means more money for the family, and Miranda's happy because she feels fulfilled in her career. So it's a win-win. He's really learning
Everybody
the whole
wins.
happy wife, happy life thing. He's really learning that. He doesn't like that expression very much, but he's learning it slowly but surely. So, yeah, I had to kind of do this thing like, does it make sense? Does it make sense logistically? Do I genuinely want to do it? Versus another opportunity where someone approached me and they want me to be something called a passion partner for this up and coming project. It's community roller rink that's going to be developing in the Florida area. And I love the concept. There's going to be karaoke room and all this like really cool stuff. And they're currently looking for investors, and they're currently looking for somebody to help be like boots on the ground, take meetings with people and do all this stuff. And I really believe in the mission, but I can't do it. Like, I just do not have the bandwidth. I want to support. Like, I'll show up to opening night. I'll spread the word. Maybe I can take a meeting or two every once in a while, but like my meeting's gonna have my baby with me. Like, is that cool? Like, I don't know, because in some places it might be, in others it may not. So I just thought about it, and as much as my heart would be into it, like it's just too much. I would be compromising far more on my other side, right? With my family, with my acting career, even because it's not even acting related. And I just have to like politely decline. And as a recovering people pleaser, it's tough for me. But I know that that's the right move at the moment. Maybe I can be involved more later down the road, but right now, no.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you said that because that right there was exactly the thing that my business coach said. Does it serve your ultimate mission? And you're like, well, it's not really acting. And even though I really want it, it would be really cool to be a part of. I have to say no because of this reason and this reason and this reason. And I really I love that because it makes me feel better on a personal level actually,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
there's something powerful about that to me, having the confidence in yourself to go, you know what, this would be really fun, but my goal is actually my trajectory is it's a different route than this, and I wish you all the luck, but I can't do it. And the same kind of thing happened to me actually. There's a radio station that's it's internet based. They wanted me to be one of the people who did all their voiceovers and also did the DJing and all this other stuff, and these small 1 minute features that I would research and then record and that would be on the air because the guy really liked my voice, which is very sweet, and I liked it. And looking at the business end of it, I was like, first of all, I love to do voiceovers. Any kind of voice acting is really fun for me, but the money was not going to be there. And I went, I can't dedicate my resources in that way. And so in a similar way to what I think you're talking about, how are you allocating the resource? Because it's finite. And as we get older, we have fewer spoons to give, as they say. We have
Mm-hmm.
less energy. We have less of ourselves to spread around. And you said yourself, single Miranda would have been like, I'm out. I'll see you tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Married with a child, Miranda goes, let me evaluate. And so now moving forward, do you see that changing? Do you see as your son gets older, do you see going back more to I'm going to I'm going to be more like single Miranda and take off for those things, or do you see that this trajectory has now put you pretty firmly on a path where this evaluative process is going to take place all the time?
Yeah, I think it's as far as the child is here, it's always going to be a, is this going to be a good choice to do? Can I do this sort of thing? I see it for sure getting easier as he gets older. And Richie and I have talked about, if I mean, I'm up for a gig right now where I would shoot all month long in Nashville, Tennessee. I said, okay, if I book this, it's huge. It's career changing.
Hmm.
If I book this, and some people will be like, when you book this? Yes, I'm
Yeah.
positive. Okay. Then that means we'd have to go to Nashville for a month. And are you ready to do that? Or like, I'm not even gonna audition for this if we like can't work this out in some capacity. And he's like, you're absolutely gonna audition for this. And I said, yeah, that's right, I am. But I have,
Nice.
I want to check in because I'm like, this is what it would look like. It wouldn't look like I'm not gonna be away from my, 7-month-old son for a month. That's absolutely not happening.
Hmm.
And I would need help while I'm on set, and someone would need to help care for him. So either I call in mother-in-law again, call in my mom, or somebody to come help that I trust and everything. But my ideal scenario, and luckily because my husband works from home and we have the flexibility to do this, and Airbnb exists or whatever,
Hmm.
I could ship my whole family up there, even the cat, and we could hang out for a month in Nashville, Tennessee, and he could work from home and we would have our supplemental care, whatever that looks like, and whoever that looks like with. And that's what we said we were going to do. And that makes me really happy because when you said, like, what is your life going to look like in the future? I mean, it's definitely steady work. I really want to get a series regular role or a significant role in a film. That's really the goal. And the goal ultimately is to make my health insurance every year. That's the bare minimum goal. But even that is difficult to do. So it would just be wonderful to be supported in that way. It would take time, more pressure on my family because I'm not going to be there as much because I'm on set. However, if my husband had a similar opportunity, like I would step in full force. He's in the army. Like if he gets called to go do something. I got to step up and be wife and be mom now. But like those women do it all the time and I can too. And that's the responsibility I took on even when I got married, even being single, Miranda. So I look at it as, it could sound frustrating. I feel like that's why maybe some actors are also afraid to say yes to family because they're like, "Oh, now it's restrictive and now I can't go and do all the things that I want to do and I can't just up and go." You're right. You can't just up and go, but when you have a supportive dynamic, one that understands you, like you can make it work. And sometimes you do need to take a back seat and sometimes you do need to take your front seat, right? So like it's just as long as you have the balance to do that, and the communication, like I just see it as a winning thing all around. Like nothing would make me happier than to be able to provide for my family with an acting job and then for my son to be able to see me and be proud of me, on the TV. It's great. It's the best feeling ever.
That's awesome. Yeah. And it's so as I'm listening to you, I'm going, okay, so those are great goals. I love those goals. I want to be able to turn on my TV and go, there's my friend Miranda as a series regular role. And and yet here's the thing, right? What do you think you need to do as an actor to make that happen?
I just sarcastically, I'm like, marry wisely. It is
Make
a
friends
business
with
negotiation.
producers, right?
I mean, partly it is, right? It's fair. Like marriage is the for centuries they married just for business purposes. But you do like the person you decide to be with is very important and not to say that you can't accomplish these goals without a partner, right? But I do think that I wouldn't be able to get where I'm at to the full capacity without having a teammate and a teammate who believes in me.
Hmm.
And I think that is something that's really beautiful about marriage that some people maybe take for granted or they don't appreciate as much is that like there really can be this beautiful dynamic between two people. But the dynamic doesn't necessarily have to be marriage. It could be between you and your very supportive mom. It could be, between you and a very supportive sibling. But a partner, you're living with them, you're sharing expenses typically. Like there's a lot more involved, right? It's a lot more complex and intricate. So I think as far as accomplishing those goals is being able to have the ability just to keep going. So many actors dropped out during COVID, and I'm sure more took a backseat too with the strikes. And I know crew really, really took a hit, and a lot of crew members are scrambling to find other professions and jobs. And I think it kind of also holds true to my whole philosophy about the acting career is that this career is very fleeting. The fame can be very fleeting. Opportunities can be fleeting. So when you do get the great opportunities, like bask in them, open, really just appreciate them because you don't know, and you don't know when your next job's going to be, but like that shouldn't scare you. It should empower you, but also it should teach you to be smart, and not put all of your financial eggs in the actor basket, as we said before. I don't, me and my husband have multiple streams of income in various different places. I've got a hygiene license. I'm a dental hygienist by trade, so I can go and pick up and do that anytime I want. He's got his Army career. He also has his civilian job in healthcare. He also does honor guard for the Army, which is a whole separate job. It's when a soldier passes, they do the honorable ceremony at the funeral. Those
Hmm.
soldiers come and they pass the flag. So he's one of those people. I always tell him it's like his little acting job. Um, it's not little, it's very honorable, but that's not what I mean. But like, it's cool that he gets to do it. And then he does act every so often too, as part of one of the things he does. We have properties for investment. What else? I mean, you name it, I've probably done it to some capacity. And I think it's really important to have multiple streams of income,
Sure.
specifically because of what the strike taught us. Also, because your agency that reps you could go up in flames, which also happened to me the last 2 months.
Oh
Not
no.
once, but twice. Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of, this business is wild. Like it's absolutely wild. The agency I was with, there's a Deadline article about it. Um, Folded completely, unexpectedly. So all even the agents that were under this company, they they were just without a job
Wow.
within 2 days. And
Yikes.
and then that was one company, and then another company like fired their head of payment, and I don't know, there's no HR. There really should be HR in these agencies because of the things that go down. But that, that folded too, and actors were owed money for months. And there's also a Deadline article about that. So I'm not like spilling secrets that aren't out there. And basically had to fold, the commercial division as well, for that company. So like within 2 months, my representation in New York just was poof, bye. And I've been with
Wow.
these agencies for years. And it's just kind of wild. And I'm just grateful that I have, other means of income to fall back on for the time being until we pick up. And, was taking meetings, and now I'm with a new agency in New York that I'm really excited about. I've been wanting to be with them forever. And it's just like everything kind of happens for a reason, and you need to learn to pivot
Right.
and, still fall on your feet.
And it's interesting how the thing that feels like it's the worst thing ever ends up being such a blessing in disguise.
Hmm.
So I keep running up against this. Something happens and you think, oh, this is the worst thing ever. And then the next day you're like, that was the best thing ever. So that just keeps working in my life. And I'd love to ask you that a little bit, actually. You said you need to pivot, but there's also something I think more at work here as far as I can see. You are open to serendipity working in your life. That's
Hmm.
something I saw the very first time we met in that comedy stand-up comedy class that we both took. That's how where we
Yeah, I still miss
uh
it.
what was that?
I miss that class. I miss
It
stand-up comedy in general.
it was
Oh,
super
I
fun.
can get back into that.
I know I keep saying the same thing. I keep saying I need to do more and I just don't have time. And
Right.
it's one of those things where what are you going to put your time into? And I went, I want to put my time into writing plays and writing musicals and writing
Hmm.
books. And I'm
Yeah,
not
because
letting
writing a set, is takes a lot of work. But I
a
was like,
boy
maybe
does
I
it.
need this for therapy. Like this will just be my therapy. I'll just go to an open mic night and just let it rip and be like, okay, thanks for your time.
Yeah, you'd be the marvelous Mrs. Maisel, but in real life. Uh,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
but it's interesting though because for me, musical theater is my huge passion, my huge love, and I moved to New York in part to do that. Right, I had always wanted to do more musical, be in musical theater, and I was in high school and in college, and then stopped. Let me ask you this. Has being an actor always been the thing? Or did you pivot there too and land on acting after trying other things or after dreaming of other things?
Wow, that's a good question. Looking back, I feel like being a performer at heart was always the dream, but it was very unspoken at the time. It
Mm,
was very like deep and eternal because I didn't feel like that was ever possible.
mm,
I grew up in a small town, one where people became teachers and nurses
mm,
and cops and all of this. And it was like the blue collar town, which I love and respect. Um, I just really never thought it was possible. So my dream at first was I was going to get into hygiene school. Well, I applied to nursing and hygiene school, and if I had gotten into my top nursing school, I probably would have went to nursing school, but I ended up getting into my top dental hygiene school. And I secretly kind of always leaned a little bit more towards teeth, mainly because of the flexibility. I wanted to work part-time and make full-time money. Like
mm-hmm,
I'm not a 9 to 5er. And I think that's what really got me. And I know that you feel the same, Isolde, being creative. Like it's really difficult for me to, commit to a 9 to 5. Like it's
for sure.
just soul crushing. And also it hurts my back. So
Yeah.
I 2 years out of hygiene school. I mean, I worked so hard. I was so proud of myself. I got my hygiene license at 20. I couldn't even drink at the time. I was very motivated to go on a path, and I felt like I accomplished my goal like so quickly. And then 2 years into the craft, I was like, I just don't think this is forever. And it
Mm,
kind of surprised me and it really scared me too because I was like, oh my God, just spent all this like college money. Because I went to a private school for hygiene. I was like, I just spent all this money and like my parents are so proud of me and I'm supposed to just like stick with this career forever. And I just like feel like there's this gaping hole in my heart that I
mm,
need to do something creative. I wanted to wade in the water modeling, but then modeling got really boring for me. And I was like, no, I really think I'm meant to be acting. And that's when I was in DC, actually. And
mm,
I started getting my feet wet in the acting business. I did a lot of industrials and just kind of like started to talk to people and Google and attend classes. And then you meet other people and you just build from there. And it
mm-hmm.
became like kind of this hobby until this hobby started eating up my sick days when I would book something.
Right.
And I'd have to call into work. And then I was like always negotiating my time back. It was hilarious. I just always was in the negative. And then like my boss would laugh at me, but he was like, no, you need to come in this Saturday and work because you're in the negative. I'm like, oh no. But I'm glad because it really taught me that this wasn't the end goal for me.
Right.
And I don't think I would be where I am today, having sustained my career without my hygiene career, because that's what really supplemented my income and allowed me to live in one of the most expensive cities in the United States, and pursue acting. So when I was living in New York, I became a freelance dental hygienist in between all of the acting gigs, and we made acting the priority. And
Right.
I've never hustled more in my life. And I'm just so glad I did it then. And I got my street creds in then. I learned everything I know now from the streets of New York, but also like I laid a really good foundation. So now I can coast a little bit with this
Mm-hmm.
baby motherhood thing because I don't feel like I'm running to build. I feel like I'm seasoning myself.
Right.
If that
To
makes
keep
sense.
going with the cooking imagery. Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, and it's so, I love that because so many people have the dream and give it up. And you kind of went the other way. You didn't realize you had the dream. And then once you did realize it, that's what you pursued. Now,
Hmm.
you've talked about how you've got different, passive income and different modes, different streams of income. So those are part of it. So having a good sort of lay of the land is a really good idea. And
Hmm.
and for me, for example, I have businesses where I go into companies and I teach them how to sing together and communicate and collaborate creatively, blah, blah, blah. And that makes me money, which is great. My secret dream, and I'm telling you, my secret dream on a podcast is to someday perform in a Broadway musical. That would be amazing.
Oh
Uh,
my goodness.
that has been my dream since the first time I stood on stage with the likes of Andrew Lip and Jeffrey Seller. I love it more than anything, but I also love to write. And that's one of the things that's sort of like I was talking about earlier. You have to sort of trim away the things that aren't serving you. I love to write. I love to direct. Directing, I've directed a few shows, and that's also one of my favorite things. So I have all of these things that I just that feed my spirit like nothing else does. So I'm asking you now, what is the thing that feeds your, laying aside mommyhood, because I know that's obviously super important, all of that, but what is the thing that feeds your spirit most? And what will success in that look like for you?
First of all, I want this Broadway dream for you so bad. So
Thank
I
you.
need to take over your podcast and ask you what's holding you back from pursuing that. For
So
me, go ahead.
I'll answer that question after you've answered yours.
Okay, please do, because I want to know. So your question was, what is the dream for me and like what would it look like? Yeah, like the
Yeah,
ultimate
what
dream.
is the ultimate dream, and what would success in that dream look like for you?
The ultimate dream would be to write and act in a film or TV series project that actually moves people in some sort of way.
Mm,
It could be comedically, relieving them of something in some kind of way. But I think being so embedded into a project and
hmm
having that project have success where people really, take away something from it and
hmm
it's, has legs, like I said, it's got traction, people know of it, would be one of the most rewarding things because not only did I get to act in it from, one side of the camera, but the messages I'm also influencing because of
hmm
the writing, because
hmm
of the way it's being directed and the whole vision, would be really life-changing and extremely fulfilling because I think all the time about what kind of legacy I want to leave. And I think about that too with my son, and not to be morbid, but like if anything were to happen, what do I need to do right by him? Like, how do I set myself up? Do I have my will in place? Do I have a trust in place? Like those logistical things, but also like what kind of mark do I want to leave on the world so that he can remember me moving forward. And it's beautiful because there's just so much I'd like to tell him, right? Now, if I
Sure.
can't be there for whatever reason when he's older. But I think film especially has this beautiful way of capturing people like a time capsule.
Mm,
And it's never going to go away.
hmm
Like that you're just capturing that person in that moment, in that time, whatever they're experiencing. And there's just something so magical about the film medium that I just get lost in it. I mean, it was always a passion, like watching these films with my dad. My dad, instead of reading to us, he would put movies on, and
I
that's the
love
best he
that.
could do at his 25-year-old self. And it was a bonding moment, right? And so he's amazing. He remembers actors and their names, and I'm horrible at that. But it was just those memories are forever embedded in me of just sharing something special with him. But it's because those films provoked certain emotions, certain bonding moments,
hmm
with my dad.
hmm
So that's the type of legacy I want to leave behind. I want to leave something memorable, and to be able to be embedded into it and integrated in that capacity would be amazing.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
like,
the dream.
let's soak let's soak that in for a minute. Yeah, I think in listening to your answer, because I know I don't ask easy questions, and I realize that, but it's a lovely answer because you're working in a medium that is, relatively speaking, permanent. And so you are leaving every time you set foot on a set, if you will. You are leaving a legacy. People are going to be able. Your son is going to be able to watch you. You're going to be able to watch yourself. 60 years, 70 years down the road, you're going to be able to watch some of these movies you've made today or last year and see the contribution that you made and the contribution that you will make moving forward. I remember I was watching Devil Wears Prada recently, and I'm sure you've seen it, but the very last scene, or the second penultimate scene, with Meryl Streep, when she's in the limousine and she knows that Andy's walking away, and she has this, it's a masterclass in acting, right? Because she does
Mhm.
this beautiful, lovely little, almost wistful smile, and you can see how she realizes, Andy left and that was the right thing for her to do. And then everything in her demeanor changes and she goes, drive. And, and it's just, I'm like, this is Meryl Streep at her best. And she's sitting in the back of a limo. And it's a masterclass, right? And I don't know if she ever looks back at her stuff and goes, that was okay. I did fine, or that was great, or never looks at her stuff at all because
I
she's the
wonder.
best actress we can. But can you imagine? Can you imagine being Meryl Streep and going, I'm gonna look at Sophie's Choice and see how I did. What was, and it just she boggles my brain. Her abilities boggle my brain.
Yeah.
So when we're looking at that, when we're talking about that, she's my absolute favorite. I adore her. I
Mhm.
think she's amazing. Who's yours?
My
Who are your
favorite
favorite
actress.
actors? Actor, actress, actresses, doesn't matter. Who are your
Mhm.
favorites?
Oh my gosh, it's like asking me what my favorite candy is, and
I
I
know.
like them all for different reasons. Um, so good. Am I in a chocolate peanut butter mood, or am I in a, like a tangy sweet mood? Okay. I mean, like they're the greats because they're the greats. I think as far when I think of performances that have really like I could not look away and my jaw just completely dropped. Viola Davis, 1000%.
Mm,
Especially her role in Fences. I mean, it was just I could not look away. And she has this beautiful ability to just adapt and conform into all these different roles as well, which is pretty cool. Um, I also love Kate McKinnon from Saturday Night Live. I think she's brilliant in her comedy, and I think she's so funny and love just her like kind of like zest for performance in life. Um, gosh, just trying to think of like who else have really been impressed by. Um, I love watching Tom Hanks and just so many of his films. I watch The League of Their Own. That's like my one of my comfort movies. Like when I'm
mm,
sick, I put that one on. Or if
hmm.
I'm riding in a plane, I usually put that one on. I just love that movie so much. But I love him and his role. Like he's got a lot of depth to him as well, and
Hmm.
it would be really cool to meet him someday. And although they do say like you should never meet your heroes.
He just seems like such a nice guy too. So I bet you he'd
Mhm.
be an okay hero to meet.
Yeah, let's hope so. I always hope for the best with people, and then like, the media leaks all this crazy stuff and you're just like, "No, why?" So, sometimes I prefer to have blinders on.
Mm,
But
hmm.
but
I
yeah, I
get
would
it.
say those top 3 come to mind. I'm sure there
Mhm.
are more for sure, but they all have something about them that just I'm so intrigued by.
Yeah, those are great choices. I have a long list. We don't have to get into it.
Mhm.
But to answer your question about so it's not Broadway, but I am going to be doing some at least singing as the show's getting its feet on the ground, as it were. So I'm moving in that direction. Let's put it that way. In addition to writing a musical and having written a play, in these last few months, I am making inroads into doing some actual stage performing. So I will keep everybody posted on that. Believe me, if anything happens, you will hear me shout it from every rooftop. So don't you?
Please do so we can support you and I can come watch you. Like
Oh my
that's
God.
I love seeing friends win and fulfilling something that they really wanted to do. There's like no better feeling to just
Oh,
be
for
so
sure,
proud.
for sure. Okay, I know, I know that we could keep chatting forever, and you have a family to get back to. So there are things that we didn't even touch on. I had all these other questions, so
Mm.
I want you
Any
to come
rapid
back.
fire ones?
I do have two more that I want to ask you, but before that, can you do me a favor? Somebody wants to know more about Miranda Roldán and how to find you and agents in Atlanta. If you're listening to this, you need to hear this next bit of information because she's amazing and you should be clawing to represent her. How does someone find you if they want to know where you are?
Thanks, Zolda. The best way to get in touch with me is you can email me at my email, Miranda@mirandaroldán.com. Pretty easy to find. Also on my website, mirandaroldán.com. But if you want to say hi and be social, then I am primarily on Instagram. I can't keep up with all the other social media outlets. It's
Mm,
just too intense. And my handle is Miranda Roldán TV. And just shoot me a little message. Say hi, say you heard me on the podcast. I'd love to connect with you and see what you're up to as well.
awesome. And I will also put the links to all of that in the show notes. I know people learn differently. Some people like to hear things, some people like to see them, so you'll get it both ways. And I highly recommend you check out, you heard in the very beginning of the show some of Miranda's credits. She is outstanding in everything she does, and obviously a great actor, and also a phenomenally funny person, as well as being stunningly gorgeous. I know this because I'm literally looking at my book cover that you are the model for, Miranda,
Love your
right
book.
now.
I love it not just because my face is on it. I love it because I think it's just such a beautifully designed book cover. So shout out to your graphic artist. I
Oh,
know you know her
she's
name. She's just phenomenal.
yeah. Magdalena is amazing. She's incredible. She's done the book covers to all my fiction books, and I adore her. And she is great to work with because she takes my meager ideas and turns them. She sort of spins them into magic, and I love that. All right, so I have two more rapid fire questions for
Yeah.
you before I let you go. The first one is, and you've kind of already answered it, but what the heck? I'll ask it. Question one is, what is the thing that makes you get out of bed in the morning? And I don't just mean your alarm or your sun.
Coffee.
If
Like,
Richie's making coffee in the kitchen, the aroma will
yes.
just have you
Oh,
floating
I
out.
look forward to that cup. That is just something me and my husband are like, did you make coffee? Did I make you coffee? And we bring, we take turns who brought who coffee. It's just kind of like our nice little moment for each other. But yeah, this
Aw.
this household runs on coffee and it will forever run on coffee. And I just love a lot of the times my coffee ends up cold,
Oh, of course.
unfortunately, from all the things I have to do in the morning. But yeah, that's one of the first things I'm thinking of. Ironically, it should be showering, but it's coffee.
No, no. Coffee before shower. That is written in a rule book somewhere. Coffee definitely before shower.
Right? That should be
Because
the title of
coffee
a book,
then
Coffee Before Shower.
right, coffee then working out, then shower. That's my go-to.
Working out, what's that, Isolde? Don't that's gone far, far away.
Oh,
We
yeah.
gotta get her back. I walk, like we go on walks to get my
Yeah,
vitamin
and
D, but
you
ooh,
mentioned something before we started recording this episode that we didn't really get to. You said you're going on a year-long reset, and I want to talk more about that because I have no idea what that means, but maybe we'll leave that as a teaser for the next time you are on the
yeah.
show.
Yeah, it's a
Uh,
big lifestyle change with diet and supplements. I'm learning a ton in the functional medicine department,
ooh.
and I am excited because I will be in the best shape of my life after this. So that's exciting and enticing.
Wow. All right, cool. Are
Yeah.
you talking about that on your podcast at all, that journey?
I I think I will. I haven't mentioned it just yet because I just started as of yesterday. So
Mm,
it's still very fresh and new. I would love to have my certified holistic coach come on the podcast at some point because what she does is truly life-changing work. She works with people who have autoimmune diseases, works with people who have predisposed genetic cancer, um, like the heavy metal poisoning, all the stuff that surprisingly a lot of Americans are dealing with but have no idea.
mm,
And that you can truly heal yourself through food and supplements and certain regimens and things like that, which is kind of amazing. And she works with a lot of high-end celebrities too, but like I literally feel like I'd walk through fire with this woman. Like she's just so amazing. So more on that. I do want to elaborate on it. I want to get like in the throes of it a little bit more so I can really speak to the journey.
hmm.
Because it is completely customized also. Very thorough. I had
Wow.
to give hair samples and blood samples and
Wow.
stool samples and urine samples. I mean, you name it, I had to give it. And it's the
Wow.
most comprehensive information about my body that I've ever had. And I just kind of wonder why, with quote unquote the greatest and most sophisticated healthcare, in the world. Why aren't we doing this on a regular basis? I don't know.
Right.
But
Right.
anyways, yeah, more to come with that.
That's very cool. Yeah, more and more we're finding out that especially your gut biome, we need individualized healthcare because every single one of us is actually completely different. Yes, most of us have two eyes and one nose and, hands or whatever, but the rest so different from one another, and yet we keep trying to shoehorn people into being treated the exact same way. And I want to know the name of this coach because I have hypothyroidism and I'm at the end
Mhm.
of my rope. So I after we're done recording this little chat, I want to talk to you about that. All right,
Okay.
so here's the last question before I let you go. And the last question you might remember from the last time you were here. It's a silly little question, but I find that it can yield some profound answers. And the question is this: if you had an airplane, environmentally friendly, of course, that could skywrite anything for the whole world to see, what would you say?
Stay in your magic.
I love that.
Hmm.
I love that.
Everyone has magic. You just got to stay in it and not keep it in a box. Just allow it so that how do I want to say it? I'm like getting like choked up when I'm saying it too now. Everyone has a light inside of them in some capacity, and a lot of people have dumbed it down or have hidden it for far too long for so many different reasons. But if you could just stay in it, you become magnetic and your life starts to change for the better.
Now you made me cry. That's beautiful. I
Stay in
love
your
it.
magic.
I, I'm
I'm
literally,
glad.
I'm like, I'm all kerfuffled now. Um, Miranda, thank you so much for being on the show. I can't wait to have you back. I'm super excited for all of the things that you are doing to live on purpose and with purpose creatively. You are a real, honestly, a real role model. That's the best way for me to see it. If you're interested in knowing more about how to maintain and grow a full and realized creative life, you need to be following Miranda because obviously she knows what she's doing. And I'm really grateful that you are my friend and that you were willing to be on the show. And I say thank you, and I send you and your lovely family all the love.
Thank you, Isolda. Likewise, and I'm so happy to be here. And this is not the end of us. We'll be back soon.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what I want to remind you, if you're listening to the show, take a look at the show notes, go to Miranda's website, follow her on Instagram. She's got some really great stuff that she's sharing on there, and also the Balancing Actor podcast. You are balanced or balancing? Now I don't remember.
We're balancing, where it's always in
Balancing.
motion.
Yeah, Balancing Actor. Okay. Because I was going to say, wait, I don't
We're not
remember.
completely balanced. Everything is chaos in the back end all the time. We're just trying to do our best, Isolda.
That's right. Well, but everything's in motion, so balanced would be boring. So I understand. And if you are interested in knowing more about me, you know how to find me. Check out the website, check out Brain FM, which is sponsoring this show. And until next time, I'm Isolde Trachtenberg for the Creative Solutions Podcast, reminding you, as always, to be bold, be creative, and most of all, be kind. Thanks so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you being here. Please subscribe to the show if you're new, and it would mean the world to me if you told a friend about it. Today's episode was produced by Isolde Trachtenberg and is copyright 2024. As always, please remember this is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Past performance does not guarantee future results, although we can always hope.